Hello, everyone. I'm Swasti, and I'm an associate fellow at the Europe and Eurasia Center at the Manohar Parrikar Institute for Defense Studies and Analyses at New Delhi. And I research on foreign and defense and security policy of European countries with respect to the larger international politics. And as you know, the Russia-Ukraine war has taken the world by storm. It has been having far-reaching geopolitical, geo-economic, reverberations, which are felt throughout the globe. And different countries have come up with different responses. So like, we in India, we have kept our strategic autonomy first. We've refused to take, sides, and we have tried to build our own strategic reserves, etc. But similarly, different countries have also been forced to balance their relations with Russia, with Ukraine, and then also with the Western Bloc. And one such country is Turkey. And Turkey's balancing act is a very fine example of, how to navigate this complex terrain of international politics, because, Turkey is a NATO member as well. So in today's column, I'm going to be talking about this masterclass that Turkey has exhibited in balancing sides when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine war. So, like I said, that this ongoing war in Ukraine has forced hard choices on countries beyond their immediate defense theater. And this particular thing has made these countries upend their geopolitical calculations. So India has responded by asserting strategic autonomy and prioritizing its national interest. But then India is not the only country whose confidence balancing act of not taking sides has been a matter of widespread geopolitical scrutiny, criticism, and even appreciation. Turkey's pursuit of its national interest has also been a masterclass, like I said, in diplomatic and geostrategic maneuvering. Why? Because, there is a basic difference between Turkey and India. Unlike India, which has carefully avoided formal strategic alignment with either side, and thereby validating its multi-vector foreign policy approach with gusto, NATO's membership renders Turkey strategically aligned with the West in a war that is fought in Turkish maritime backyard. So you see, this is a situation where Ankara has been strategizing by supporting Kyiv without jeopardizing ties with Moscow. So the thing is that they have done it pretty well till now, and it has given them, certain dividends. The question is, how long can they do it? Because the war is going on. So now let's see what really are the issues with Turkey's balancing act. So until a few months ago, Turkey and Ukraine, before the war started, Turkey and Ukraine were seeking to build close procurement ties. And when I say close procurement, I mean the defense procurement. So they were seeking to build close procurement ties and maintaining close defense ties with Ukraine and supporting its territorial integrity. On the one hand, Turkey was simultaneously engaging Russia in multiple ways to achieve broader foreign policy goals. And for Russia, likewise, prioritizing Turkey, listening to them, giving them that importance has been aimed at countering the unity of its arch rival, that is NATO. So we all know that this infamous S-400 deal had soured relations between Turkey and the United States. S-400 is an air defense system, and Turkey, being a NATO member, was not supposed to buy, this S-400, defense system from an arch rival, Russia, but Turkey went ahead and did that. As a result, there were sanctions imposed on Turkey, and etc. So because of those sanctions, Turkey was kicked out, and pretty unceremoniously kicked out, from the F-35 fighter jet program. F-35 are pretty advanced fighter planes. They were kicked out of the fighter jet program, even after they paid America a whopping $1.4 billion. And that money is still stuck. So obviously, Turkey is trying to recover that money, so they cannot go very openly against NATO. But at the same time, they cannot go against Russia because they have other objectives to serve there, and with Ukraine because they have built a close defense relationship with Ukraine. So now you see how interesting is this, is this emerging equation. So now that also makes us delve on a more fundamental question which is that how do states seek to cope with security challenges in a highly uncertain international environment? Now, playing all sides is an eternal yearning of the middle order powers that manifests in certain strategies that are called balancing and hedging. So if you go to international relations literature of how states go about serving their national interest in a very uncertain world, you will come across strategies called balancing and hedging, etc. Now, without delving deep into what really they mean, there are different strategies for playing all sides. Okay, so these strategies have been at play all along. What the Russia-Ukraine war, however, has done is that this war has tightened the news and forced Turkey to show tangible solidarity with Ukraine on the one hand and commit to not disturbing ties with Russia on the other, while also maintaining its NATO identity. So what really has Turkey done? Turkish President Erdogan, he has been seeking right from the beginning to keep Turkey out of the Ukraine conflict as much as possible, while maximizing his own room to maneuver. But as tensions started to build up, Erdogan realized the trouble that is coming, the trouble that is brewing, and he started repeatedly calling for de-escalation, and he offered to mediation. In fact, Turkey was the first country to actually offer mediation. But then that was to no avail, and the war broke out. So after the war broke out, Turkey was very quick in offering to mediate the first formal negotiations between Kyiv and Moscow as early as March 2022. But then those negotiations failed. So basically for Turkey, it was betting its odds on reconciliation before pressure ramped up to join Western sanctions. Because, like we all know that the West has been coming up with one tranche of sanctions after second tranche of sanctions, and now they are actually, deciding the seventh tranche. So Turkey wanted to avoid that, okay? But, however, with no signs of tensions ebbing, what did Turkey do? Turkey voted for condemning Russia's invasion at the UN, but at the same time, they decided to not join the sanction regime. Now, this seemingly pro-Russia stance was then to be balanced by several pro-NATO endeavors as well. Now, before I get into what really Turkey did, let us try and understand what really is this Turkish dilemma. See, unlike the popular perception of affinity, Turkey's ties with Russia are fairly complicated. On the one hand, both find each other in opposing camps in a whole host of global conflicts. You name it, ranging from Syria to North Africa and all the way to the Caucasus. And, by Caucasus, I mean the famous Armenia-Azerbaijan war. Both these countries were on different sides. So that's one. Then, on the other hand, Russian tourists bring in much needed money to provide a breather to Turkey's bad performing economy. Turkey's inflation rates are making news all over the world. They are highest, in perhaps in modern history. So on the one hand, Turkey is Turkey is at loggerheads with Russia in global conflicts. Then the Russian tourists are bringing that money into Turkey, and then Turkey's only nuclear power plant is also being built by Russia. So it's like a push and a pull and a push and a pull. But with Ukraine, however, Turkey has established a multifaceted cooperation in recent years, especially, like I mentioned earlier, the close defense ties that include joint development and manufacturing of sensitive technologies in defense and aerospace. So before Vladimir Putin started the war, Turkey was delivering, the TB2 drones at discounted prices to Ukraine, which built the engines for Turkey's new Bayraktar drones. And Turkish defense exports to Ukraine have also exponentially increased. The numbers are staggering. Just to give you an example or a sense of how exponentially Turkish defense exports to Ukraine have increased, from about 1.9 million to about 59.1 million in 1 year alone. This is a 30 times jump, right, in 1 year alone. So you can understand how staggering and how, this exponential increase has been. And banking upon this robust defense cooperation with Turkey, Ukraine, when the war broke out, after 24 February, Ukraine requested weapons worth billions of dollars in the wake of that Russian attack. Now, interestingly, and also I would say expectedly, details of Turkey's deliveries have gone invisible since the war has begun. But the frequency of cargo planes from the Turkish city of Tekirdağ, where the Turkish drone producer Parrikar has a factory, to the Poland-Ukrainian border, that frequency has increased. So it can be safely extrapolated that the Turkish supplies of drones and smart munitions to Ukraine have actually continued till date. Just that the details have been muted to avoid direct friction with Russia. So that is the smart act that I have been, trying to bring to fore. But that's not all. Turkey's balancing act is also evident in the sagacious decision, and a very wise one, to close the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles straits to warships in the Black Sea. Turkey is, along the Black Sea. Turkey has this long Black Sea shoreline. So there are these, Bosphorus and Dardanelles straits there. And under a famous convention called the Montreux Convention of 1936, Turkey has the power to close these two straits by invoking the fact that it is wartime, and in wartime, it is better to close these warships so that closing the straits to these warships, because wartime requires, tensions to be de-escalated. And if we leave these straits open, there could be mayhem, okay? And this is something that Turkey did, risking Russian anger. If you remember reports from the early war days, Russia was constantly diplomatically trying to pressurize Turkey into not, closing down these warships, because Russia was trying to, ramp up pressure on Ukraine from the sea as well. But Turkey, going against, Russia's, so to say, demands and risking Russian anger, actually closed these two these two straits. And then, in yet another clever display of solidarity with NATO and Ukraine, last month only, over the rising humanitarian costs of the war, Turkey actually closed its airspace for Russian civil and military jets, which were en route to Syria. Okay? Now, all this is fine, but the balancing and the hedging strategies which are exercised by Turkey that I've been describing so far, they have been hinging on a position of weakness. Okay, they've been trying to save their face. Okay, but then something changed. And this particular position of weakness and whatever balancing and hedging they're doing, this situation may have stretched even longer. But suddenly, this war underwent a shift. Now, what was that shift? This war took another turn with two Nordic countries called Finland and Sweden that formally applied to join the NATO. Now, as to what really is the politics in the Nordics, what is the politics of the border that Finland shares with Russia, those things apart. Those things apart, they are for another day. But with this particular shift happening, Turkey has found itself in a position of power. Because without its consent, being a NATO member, without its consent, NATO cannot be expanded. For expanding NATO, all 30 NATO members have to be on the same page. Now, Turkey is benefiting from this equation with all ingenuity. Okay, this is a window that Turkey can exploit to obtain written assurances from Sweden and Finland against not supporting the Kurds. Kurds are one separatist movement in Turkey that are actually supported by Finland and Sweden, and that's another politics, and very serious one at that. But what is happening is that now Turkey is going to be using this particular leverage, okay, saying that I'm going to support your NATO membership, but now you make sure and you give me written assurances that you are not going to be supporting the Kurdish militants, okay? That's on the one hand. And with the US, on the other hand, to compensate for the losses incurred by the CAATSA sanctions, and especially renegotiating the F-35 deal to its advantage. Okay, the one that I mentioned in the beginning. Now, do you see how the switch has come from a position of weakness to a position of strength? And then, like we all know, that the recently concluded NATO summit in Madrid, and to Russia's dismay as well, a trilateral memorandum has been signed between Turkey, Sweden, and Finland to accommodate Turkish demands and pave the way forward for NATO's expansion in the Nordics. So the crux of the matter is that Turkey's position of weakness has switched to a position of power only because the war has stretched on and favorable situations have emerged. Then I'd say the timing then is going to be key to how the Ukrainian situation will unravel and how it will affect the appending, choices and geopolitical calculus that different countries are coming up with. Thank you so much.